Thank you so much, Doug. Gino, welcome to the stage.
I have one quick correction.
Oh, God.
Already. Abbate. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Gino Abbate. It's okay. No, that's right.
You know, I'm not going to belittle pronouncing your last name.
He
but I
said
feel
branding
really
was
good.
important.
It is.
So I wanted to start with my own personal brand there. So thank you.
Honestly, mic drop, that's all we need to talk about right now.
We'll make it about me. Today's actually my birthday, so we can make it all about me.
Oh my God, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank
you. Should we
Yeah.
sing?
It's all mine and Taylor Swift's birthday. So please wish the Queen a happy birthday as well. Yes.
So outside of today being your birthday, how to pronounce your last name, and you sharing a birthday with Taylor Swift, what else do we need to know about you, Gino?
My favorite food is pizza. I come from the exotic land of New Jersey, but now live in DC, Virginia area. No, but we'll make it more serious. Sorry. So thank you for the introduction. Gino Abbate, Vice President of America's Marketing at Hilton. Give you a little bit of the journey that I've been on. I did start my career in the creative space, but not a creative by any means. I was an analytic person at a creative agency, which, 10, 15 years ago, that was like water and oil. Like they don't mix well, right? Creatives are like, who is this guy trying to tell me what to do? But that's exactly what I spent a big chunk of my career doing was, being the data backbone for everything around big global brands. So who are we talking to? How do we talk to them? And is it effective at driving the outcomes that we want? And using data to inform all aspects of the brand strategy, creative, and campaign process. After many years doing that agency side, specifically at Publicis Group up in New York, working on big global P&G brands, so things like Crest, Oral-B, Tampax, Always, Charmin, those kinds of things that you constantly find in your medicine cabinets. I took the jump to, some people call it the dark side, but the brand and client side, where I started a similar practice around marketing measurements for Hilton. And so in those early years, it was really building out their first marketing mix modeling program, helping them to define measurement and learning agenda frameworks, and building their brand health tracking. Did that for a few years. There was this kind of crazy thing called the pandemic. Travel completely shut down. I went into a dark cave and rethought all of my life choices of why did I switch myself to a travel brand. But then ultimately when we came back kind of during the pandemic and then now post-pandemic, I took on the lead role of leading the strategy and leadership role for the Americas marketing. So you hit on it a little bit. Americas for us at Hilton is everything from Canada down to Argentina. It's 31 different countries that we have hotels in. We market in 5 different languages, over 6,000 hotels across that atmosphere there. And we have all of our 24 brands at Hilton. So everything from your economy brands all the way up to our luxury brands like Conrad, Waldorf, and LXR. And so it's been a little bit of a wild journey. But I got a nice little mixture of like creative, strategy, analytics background. And here I am today.
The wild journeys are always the best kind, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So Hilton is a brand that every man, woman, and child knows, right? You guys don't have necessarily a branding problem, but
92% awareness.
92% awareness, right? Yeah.
So 8% there are just like who?
Yeah. Right. Anybody in this room did not know the Hilton brand before coming in?
Can you name all 24? I'll give a free night to any of our hotels if anybody cannot Google. I know I'm in a bunch of room of performance marketers, but if you can name even 20 of them, that'd be impressive.
All right. Well, I don't think we have time for that, but we will have to pick that up at dinner later tonight. But so in a brand that everyone knows, and you've come in to kind of build out a new performance marketing team, how have you really moved performance marketing kind of up the marketing funnel?
Yeah, I think that's the number one trope though, right? And I kind of cringed when I first heard the term performance marketing many years ago, is because that just by definition says, oh, we have this thing brand and we have this thing performance marketing. By definition then, you're not expecting performance from your brand marketing and vice versa. You're not expecting your performance marketing to build your brand. Like that's an interesting conundrum there. And I think that's what gets us in hot water with like our finance experts or our finance leaders and our CEOs who are approving our budgets. They're like, wait, you want me to give you this large budget and only half of it is going to drive performance? And I think that's where we kind of fall flat a little bit because it's not necessarily like only one half drives performance. It's the fact that they have to work together and they both drive performance for your brand in the short and long term. And I actually think that those names are like a little bit just kind of outdated a little bit, right? Like, and marketers try to call it many things: brand versus performance, upper versus lower funnel. Some people say awareness versus sales activations. But I think, like, from my perspective, and in the brands that I've seen really well at succeeding about it, it's not the choice between those two things. It's more so the balance between how do you go to market with an equity message versus how do you go to market with a product message, right? So it's like the Nike "Just Do It," but also promoting Air Jordans. Yeah. It's the Dove Real Beauty campaign and promoting Dove shampoo. And for me, it's, Hilton for the stay, but also a stay at the Conrad Orlando. Great hotel, by the way. Everyone can look it up right now. Don't click on the ad, but you can look it up.
That's one of 20 right now, guys.
Yes,
so just
Conrad.
Keep that in your head.
Keep track. So yeah, I think it's that balance. It's, how do we go to market as an equity message, making those big equity statements that what we want our brands to stand for, while telling the lens of your equity message through your product. Your products are your reason to believe, right? And I think that's where you think about performance marketing is when you do it through the lens of your equity message, that's how you can really help to drive performance across the full funnel.
So if it was Gino's world, right, would you rename brand and performance to equity and product marketing? Or how would you redefine these conundrums that we've put ourselves in?
I am liking the equity versus product, right? I think it helps us understand what marketers have to do. We want to drive emotions and we want to drive actions. And both those things can work on that, right? I think it's one of the things that we've been doing internally, which is kind of changing a lot of people's perception, is we put brand lift studies on all of our campaigns, whether it's upper or lower funnel, brand or performance. And the insights are really interesting because, performance marketing is really good at building the brand. Yeah. And brand marketing through our market mix modeling, all of it is really showing incrementality. And so it's really about finding the altitude at which you talk about performance, as well as making sure you're clearly defined on what that performance means, right? Like, I can't take to my CEO like a click-through rate, or I can't take to him ROAS that's not incremental, because if it's not showing up on the income statement, then it's not incremental. So that's why we've kind of completely removed ROAS from our reporting. And for us, it truly is about short and long-term ROI derived from our market mix modeling, and really saying, hey, the combination of these brand equity messages and product messaging, this is how much revenue it's driving in the short term, and here's how much revenue it's driving in the long term when you're looking at these things in totality.
Well, and that's really how people are looking for hotels, right? You have a group of people who are like, I know I need to stay here tonight. I have a work trip come up. But then you have a whole other set of people who are still figuring out where's the best place to stay, but they may not be ready to book immediately. So what data signals are you looking at to kind of say, hey, this person is in my purview and I need to keep them warm until they're ready to make that conversion point?
Yeah, that's also, first of all, I love being on stage with these kind of conversations because I get to be the contrarian in the room. So I'll be the first one to say that I think excessive targeting or a lot of these data signals is kind of just not worth it. And I know that's
hot take.
I know we have some data management people in the room and audience people in the room, but at the end of the day, like, has anybody read How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp? Oh, that's an issue.
We have one very tentative.
How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp is like literally the Bible on how brands grow. A lot of big companies have adopted it as their dogma, right? You have P&G, Unilever, Coca-Cola's of the world. It is a fundamental book that really erases a lot of these marketing myths and really focuses on the true things that make brands grow. And what it is very simple. It's about building mental and physical availability. And when you think about the role of marketing to drive mental availability, that's exactly what we have to do. Mm-hmm. And you do that by consistently reaching all of your category buyers on a very frequent basis that keeps your brands top of mind. And that is the same for performance marketing as well, right? At any given moment for my category, 50 to 60% of the US population is thinking about travel. Hmm. And so for me, reaching those people just means, hey, I'm doing general population targeting. I don't need to add in all these data signals. When you add data signals in, all it does is you have a CPM upcharge, right? And that can be anywhere from like 10 to 20%, right? Because you're now shrinking your audience, and it's supply and demand. When you have less supply, the price goes up, right? This is economics 101. So now with a 10 to 20% CPM upcharge, a smaller audience driving up the CPM cost, I'm now looking at a 40 to 50% premium on my impressions. That's a lot of money when you think about scaled budgets, right? That's tens of millions of dollars that I'm adding just to find a person who's open to travel, which is mostly
Already
everybody.
50% of the people, right?
So we kind of avoid a lot of that kind of like what I think is false precision out in the world, and we reinvest that money into the things that actually matter, is building content that is relevant to our customers and making our brands known for as many category entry points as possible, right? And so category entry points for the travel industry is stay occasions, right? And so I said earlier, I have 24 brands. So we have a brand that will satisfy most travel needs. And so instead of putting these false behaviors on targeting, we actually use creative as our targeting. So we think about what are those moments that we want people to think Hilton has a brand for them. And so we build out our content strategy focused on things like romantic getaways with your significant other, and how Hilton hotels can be the stay for you. And we think about your family vacations and how our all-inclusive hotels can really take the logistical nightmare out of planning a vacation and just make things really easy for you. And we think about your girls' trip and how you might want to have a little bit of extended room to spend in our suite brands. And so we use targeting via creative to bring those people in, because at any given moment you could go from a romantic getaway to your partner to a family vacation at an all-inclusive to a girls weekend, and you're not mutually exclusive in any of those buckets. But if we had tried to apply targeting to that, you're going to miss out on people who would have tried your brand anyway. So we kind of don't think about targeting in that sense.
So you've essentially reinvested the money that you would have saved from the inflated CPMs into more creative production, right?
Creative and reach.
Creative and reach, yeah. So is that also applicable to like dynamic content, right? So how are you thinking about, or are you thinking about AI to help ease the creative efficiencies of now all this huge content pool that you want to create?
You used the dirty word.
I did. I think we're at what? I don't know, 28 at this point?
I'll call it machine learning. I'll be easy there. No, I think dynamic is important, right? Because, but it's also a challenge, right? How do brands grow too, right? Branding positioning is built with consistency over time. And that is kind of like at odds with DCOs, right? Because it's not consistency, it's thousands of variations. But as marketers, we do have to develop those brand cues. We need to have our distinctive brand assets that are consistent. So when people see them, it constantly reinforces the brand, right? It's the glass bottle from Coca-Cola, right? It's those kinds of things that you want to see in every single ad so that it drives the brand consistency. But at the same time, we need to start to bring in some of those fungible elements, right? So we talk a lot about what is our fixed guardrails. What is that template that is going to have our distinctive and consistent brand tones, while then bringing in this fungible elements of reasons to believe. So maybe it's about rotating in an offer that might say, hey, we'll give you $50 on-site credit. Or maybe it's about elevating the message that, we have a kids club at our hotel. Or maybe it's about, bringing in our cocktail experience. But we do that within the guardrails of the brand so that we're not fragmenting our brand story. And I think that's how it even gets more challenging, right? Like, no longer are the days where a brand story could be told in 30 and 60-second cinematic spots. We're now telling our brand stories, especially in the performance marketing space, in these 1 to 6 second exposures and dozens of times. And so you have to be able to drive that consistency so that when people walk away, you're building that mental memory structure that you have a brand for them.
Yeah. You've talked a little bit at the beginning about this merging of equity and product, right? We're not going to talk about brand and performance anymore.
Okay.
So do you have an example of where you where you used a product message in order to drive long-term brand equity?
Yeah. For us, we have a big major campaign. It's called It Matters Where You Stay, right? And so what we're trying to do there is inform the general population that Hilton has a brand for you, and it's our signature brand of hospitality that delivers the stay experience. And so when we think about our product marketing, we do it through that full lens. And we talk about it internally as property-led, brand-connected. And so as we are advertising the different properties, we make sure that we go back to our universal truth, that Hilton, it matters where you stay. And so we constantly bring it back and using the product elements, or for us, the property and service elements, to explain why this hotel is going to deliver upon that promise, and really connecting it back up into the brand and working in conjunction with our creative teams to make sure that that common thread is pulled all the way down through those messages.
Yeah. You teased in the beginning too that you're not really looking at ROAS anymore. It's a short-term ROI and a long-term ROI. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're thinking about measurement for performance, and really how has reporting evolved in the platforms themselves?
Yeah, I think the platforms have broken us as an industry, right? I'll say that too. And I say someone I've spent many years being in the platforms, pulling the data to tell the story. Facebook and Google, they have a vested interest in making that ROAS seem sexy, high, and sweet. Yeah. And it's interesting though, because what we've done is we've made metrics easily obtainable, but we haven't really made it matter, right? And so, in a world where, I can't take ROAS to my CEO, I need to be able to tell him this is incremental revenue that you'll see on the income statement. We really have to think differently about, just because the platform is saying a number doesn't make it real. And so we actually lean on an outside vendor to do our marketing mix modeling. And we don't only just look at our media spend, obviously like econometric models, we look at all of the things outside of our control, our competitive media, our competitive pricing, our supply, general consumer confidence in not only our space, but in the general economy. Those are things that affect people's buying behaviors. And so we put that all into our market mix modeling. But something else that we do is we bring in our brand equity. We bring in our brand health metrics. And so we look at how are these campaigns not just driving short-term revenue from an incrementality perspective, but how is it building long-term ROI by building awareness and consideration within there? And funny enough, do you know what the most effective channel at driving awareness is?
What?
Paid search.
Shocking.
So these are the things, right? Like in a performance world, if you're only talking about the ability to drive a conversion, you're missing out on the bigger picture that performance marketing can also drive brand. And so we've kind of really look at marketing mix modeling as our source of truth for performance of what we report back up to our leaders. But that doesn't mean that, the ROAS and the things that you see in the platforms every day are obsolete.
Yeah, they're directional, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they're grading their own homework, right? Because they want to look good to you, so you funnel more dollars in there. We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. And, we talk about, and I think too, like 10 years ago, market mix modeling took like months and months and months to build. You would run a test, you'd run a campaign, and it's like, yeah, we'll find about it next year.
Yeah, you get the quarterly report for 2 quarters ago,
yeah,
right?
And at that point, some of your leaders have rotated off. They don't even know what this test is. It's a nightmare. But I think with the power of machine learning, not AI, we've actually sped up that process. And so now we actually get monthly readouts of our market mix modeling. And I think monthly is actually the right altitude, because for most purchase decisions, it's not like a 7-day attribution or a 1-day attribution. You're thinking about these for a longer time horizon. So monthly fits really well for us. And then what do you do in between, right? You have performance marketers who want to optimize, in the week for the week. And that's where I think the platform measurements are helpful to understand, are you optimizing to those things that are going to correlate to incrementality? It's the reach, it's frequency, and it's having attention so that you can bring people into your brand.
The platforms are going to also continually iterate and innovate, launching new products, right? PMax, Facebook Auto Optimizer, in order to drive and inflate their ROAS. So how are you testing these new things that they're coming out versus relying on your tried and true?
Yeah. Oh God. Everyone has a feeling on Performance Max, I feel. It's a very polarizing topic. But no, I think on all of them, it doesn't matter, insert new tactic or auto optimization, blank, fill in the blank space. We look at all channels, all tactics as, is it reaching all category buyers? Mm-hmm. Can we tell the brand story that we want to tell there? And do we allow the avenue for people to find out more if they can, right? And so, when we think about some of these other things, we're making sure that we're setting the guardrails up in a good way, that we can get a readout from our incrementality modeling, but also that it's not fragmenting our brand, right? There are so many times that I've seen the Facebook Optimize or the Performance Max from Google, where our brand is now being in places, not just from brand safety, but that these automated things are making our brand show up in a way that I don't think any of us would be proud of. Right. And so we have to make sure before we dive headfirst into something that kind of takes the keys out of our hand and into the hands of the AI, that we actually understand how our brand will show up, so that we can put the right guardrails in place and not just try to drive pure efficiency in that space.
It's machine learning, not AI.
I know. I tripped up.
So with everyone says machine learning, and I'll say AI, the automation, it helps do our jobs easier, right? Like, we have to be able to rely on that, but we also can't just let the bots run things themselves. There has to be some level of human oversight, because there's that art and science in performance marketing. So what's that balance for you? Do you over-engineer it with a human touch, or do you really let the machine do its thing and you come in as necessary?
Yeah, I mean, like all things, we need checks and balances, right? I think we don't want to let the machines just run amok. Number one, I like having a job, so I don't want the machines to take my job. But second, too, right? These things are all still very nascent in not only in their adoption, but in their ability to do things. And so, we try to put a lot of quality control checks on there, because sometimes these machine learnings will chase something that is a false hope. And we've seen that a lot. We've seen sometimes where, our impressions ended up getting delivered to 65 plus only, right? Because it was chasing the cheapest CPM, or the cheapest click, I should say. And we got to make sure that we put those guardrails in place, because at the end of the day, it's the impressions that make the marketing impactful, not the clicks. Especially in the social and video and display space, I love when people bring like, oh, we got above benchmark click-through rate at 3%. I was like, yeah, but we bought impressions. So if you're telling me 3% is successful, that means 97% of the impressions we bought were wasted.
Yeah.
And if I told my CFO that I failed 97% of the time, I wouldn't have a job.
You wouldn't. The machine would take over.
Exactly. That's why I think looking only at purely clicks is going to give you that false hope that was the action that you wanted someone to take. That might have been a nice secondary outcome, but marketing builds memory structures because of the impression, not the click.
We're all better than a 3% click-through rate, right?
Well, yes, we are. Yes. But that's how you tell the brand story, though.
So Hilton is, you have 6,000 locations, right? Globally, all over.
6,300 and change and growing in the Americas, Canada to Argentina, 8,200 globally and growing.
So tons of locations, and not all Hilton is created equally. Not all property is created equally, right? There's some localization aspects that go into that. So how do you enable your individual properties to kind of run their own local campaigns, or do you enable them to do that?
Yeah, we do. So there's, obviously in this space, there's a ton of demand to go around, right? There's a lot of people thinking about travel, searching for travel, wanting to spend their money on travel. And so we know that it's like a vast audience out there. And so we actually empower our local hotels, our individual hotels who have a story to tell, right? It's the Conrad Orlando or the Waldorf New York, who they mean something. They stand for something. They have their unique brand of service and functionality on property that they want to tell that story. So we actually we allow them to buy or create their own marketing plans and buy their own media in a very simple and seamless way with the technology and agency inside model. So therefore, we don't want to, have each hotel have to have, a full suite of marketers or agencies that they have to pay. We want them to lean on the scale that is Hilton. And so we allow them the access to a technology platform to buy that media. So it could be a marketing person, it could be a GM, it could be a revenue manager. We give them this access to a platform to build and tell their own stories. We're evolving that as we speak. So more to come in the next few months on what that can mean. But it's a really exciting space that allows those individual properties to tell their story.
Now, and there are checks and balances on that as well, too. You can't let them go totally rogue, I imagine.
Yeah. We try to put some great guardrails in place that say, here's our brand positioning, here's our visual identity. We have to make sure that we follow these things, because even though it might not be corporate telling that story, it is still adding up to the bigger Hilton story. So yeah.
We've talked a lot about how you can move performance marketing up the funnel, performance to drive brand awareness. Hilton launched their first branding campaign a couple years ago, right? Hilton for the Stay. How have you moved the branding campaign down the funnel to also drive performance?
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit. And so that is our equity message, right? Hilton is for the stay. It's a declarative moment. And the way that we bring that to life is through the campaign about it matters where you stay. And so we try to find those interesting brand stories on why it matters where you stay and tell that through the lens of the property marketing, i.e. performance marketing. And so we find those unique stories so that we can use it as a way to hero all properties in the region. Mm-hmm. And so when you're thinking about that really cool romantic getaway and you want to be at a really cool hotel that has a great food and beverage experience, we find those stories at our hotels and use that as the front and center message in our performance marketing so that we're bringing that message down, but also bringing that message up. And so you'll see a lot of our equity messaging also leverage, in our big TV or online video spots, leveraging the properties to understand the story, but telling more about the broader For the Stay platform.
You also work in an industry where loyalty is fierce and very strong, right? People are very particular about where they stay. You have Hilton loyalists, and they will always be. You have Marriott loyalists, and they will always be. And occasionally, you'll get those people who are like, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm going to look for another brand to put my stays and my points at. So how do you balance your campaigns to drive the new to Hilton customer versus one more stay from your existing loyal people?
Yeah. So, loyalty is important, right? It helps us understand who is our repeat guest, helps us understand, what are the types of customers that we're bringing in, and helps us inform new brands that we might want to build. Maybe we don't have enough of a customer, and that could be brought to life by a new brand in our system. With that being said, we need to grow, right? And so a lot of our focus is on bringing in those net new customers, those people who are first entering their travel journeys, those people who are graduating from college and now on the first time have disposable income and want to experience travel for the first time. So we focus heavily on bringing in those new first-time buyers while leveraging our other loyalty strategies to keep those customers engaged. Things like CRM, things like email, things like special loyalty offers of like 2x points. So it's really about the difference of what we do with our advertising versus what we do with maybe our own channels and our CRM.
Selfishly, I asked that question because I'm looking to leave my current hotel loyal brand because I have not been happy with them. So haven't considered one yet, but maybe I'll put Hilton in my consideration set.
Yeah. Well, so now you just told us that you weren't. We weren't us. Okay.
And I'll admit that.
Yeah. All right. Well. If anybody, the room we're sitting in today, this is actually a new endeavor for us. We have a distribution partnership with small luxury hotels. Stein Eriksen Lodge is actually one of those. And so now as a Hilton Honors member, you can both earn points by staying here and use your points for award redemption stays here. So
you're really selling it hard for me to move my loyalty over to Hilton.
I got plenty other RTBs if you want to hear it out. So
last question before I open it up to the group. What are you most excited about for the upcoming year?
That Google will stop talking about third-party cookie deprecation.
I think, yeah, we can give a slow clap for that one. Okay, other than that, what are you most excited about?
Yes. It's such an interesting space out there, right? We talk a lot about the social platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and like those are not only now becoming like main stage staples of our daily lives, but they are like concrete things in our marketing plans, right? I know there's like a big asterisk around TikTok and what's going to happen there. But I think it's a really interesting space right now where more and more of your dollars are going into those platforms and not in your like traditional upfronts or linear TV space. And so really thinking about how we tell the brand stories. And once again, those fragmented 1 to 6 second exposures will be a very interesting challenge for marketers. I think the other thing too is like, the pandemic is way in our rearview mirror. And I think some of the things around live events are really coming back to life. I was able to scoop up Coachella tickets last year, like a week before Coachella. And it was like a dream. I've never been before. So I was like, I'm doing this. Now they're sold out 7 months in advance and I can't even go this year. And I'm like, God damn it, I missed it. But I think that's a really interesting thing though, because you're seeing brands integrate themselves really interesting in the live cultural moments, right? I think cultural moments of us as humans are important, right? They're things that we tie our identity to. They're things that we celebrate our life moments with. And so I think it's really interesting, some of these big cultural moments across the ecosystem where brands are associating themselves with. And then kind of the blend of where like brands can come together to make a really cool consumer experience, right? I think Spotify's been doing really well with that lately. Whether you agree or disagree with your Spotify Wrapped campaigns, I got served the other day like Sabrina Carpenter swag because she was in my top 5. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Not that I would wear Sabrina Carpenter swag, but I am a fan of hers and I am a loyal listener, I guess. But it's interesting to see how they're bridging the gap there between like these cultural thing of music with a commerce type thing around like swag for an artist.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. I lied. Sorry. One more question. What was your favorite act at Coachella?
God, I am Coachella last year was when they brought Sublime back with
Rome?
No, with Bradley Nowell, who was the singer of Sublime, who died in the 90s, his son. Oh God, it was a tear-filled moment. I think I cried, I laughed, it was exciting. Sublime was amazing.
That's awesome.
Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, they were all amazing. But actually, you know what? Lupe Fiasco was pretty awesome. He brought the fire.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
All right. Now, for real, y'all can ask questions because I could be up here all day.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, yeah. Patty Boyle, CMO at Distillery. So earlier in my career, I ran advertising for some other luxury hotel brands. And one of the things that was always a challenge is what you related to when you talked about 24 brands kind of under the Hilton umbrella. So can you this is not as much of a performance question, it's much more equity, right? Less product, more equity. Can you just talk about how you associate the Hilton brand with some of those other, especially the higher end hotel names that have such long histories like a Waldorf? Like, how do you manage that balance?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to find ways to build up the master brand, the Hilton and the Hilton Honors, right? Because once again, to try to memorize 24 brands, even our most loyal customers or employees can't do that. And so we try to build the equity that Hilton is a brand for you or Hilton has a brand for you. And sometimes that entry door might be luxury hotels. Sometimes that might be the economy brands and everything in between. And so really it's about understanding the power that is the 24 brands collectively, because the sum of all those parts are greater than the individual brands. But we can chat with that offline a little bit if you want to go deeper on that.
Right here.
Hi, I'm Mike from hotelgraph.com. Hotelgraph. Yeah, all the people where they stay. That's pretty good. No, type it in. Yeah, I own it.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, so my question is like on hotels.com or Hotel Tonight. Do you see those just as like excess inventory tools or as a tool for discovery and driving more sampling of different properties?
Yeah, both. I think so the question, if everybody heard it, was around our distribution channels like hotels.com, Hotels Tonight, Expedia, right? I think at the end of the day, we are trying to make sure that the customer has the best experience. And for us, that means booking direct on Hilton.com or our app. But those platforms, those third-party travel agents and distribution platforms are still an important part of our strategy to bring in new customers that might not have known about our brand and giving them that first stay experience so that they can really see the magic that is a Hilton stay. And exactly to your point about, being a discovery platform for people to find out about things that they might not have thought of in the past, right? And so they are good platforms for us to bring in those customers for the first time.
Right here.
How's it going? Kevin Washington. I lead experimentation at Best Buy. If for that Hotel Tonight piece, it would be nice if I could also get a night at Hilton when I use Hotel Tonight for it, because that would be awesome. But
just book direct, man. Book direct. We have a price match guarantee. It's going to be the best price. Sign up for honors. You'll get a discount. Start getting those loyalty points. You could redeem them here when there's more snow outside. I got you.
Trust me, I already have it. I'm ready. But my question's around a lot of the investment, it looked like, from Hilton over the last couple of years has been in their what's it called? I lost my train of thought. The not the regular consumer, but actually selling the timeshares. And so, buying all these other timeshare brands, what does it look like to market there versus kind of just your everyday consumer?
Yeah, so you're talking about our Grand Vacations business. That's actually a separate company, but we have a marketing and licensing agreement with them. So, it's just another avenue for our customers to get a stay experience that fits their business or leisure travel needs. So they're a partner in that space.
All right. Thank you, Gino. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah, appreciate it.